Hey everyone, before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting me know where you're tuning in from. The evening they hauled me to the facility, I can still hear the jingle of my mom's bangles as she scribbled her name on the forms. My dad loomed behind her, face blank, like this had nothing to do with his own kid. Just routine paperwork. The place reeked of bleach and panic. I was 16, no shoes, in the sweatshirt I crashed in. The nurse gripped my arm way too hard, steering me past doors that sealed from the other side. I glanced back at my folks one final time, hoping for anything. A reason, a hint of guilt, even a fake story to hold onto. Mom just muttered, "You need help, Jamie. You're spiraling." Dad chimed in, "We can't keep hiding your actions. This is what's best for all of us." Actions. That's how they labeled it. The anxiety surges, the trembling, the meltdown sobs. They skipped over how it all kicked off the day I discovered the papers. The inheritance my grandma and grandpa set aside for me, tucked in Dad's drawer. It was locked until I hit 21. They weren't fans of that rule. I yelled as they ditched me behind the sealed glass panels. A nurse's outline passed in the corridor. A lock twisted. The door snapped closed. I recall their footsteps echoing off. One set steady and sure, one quick and clipped. Mom's. I passed my first night there, glued to the ceiling, tracking every pulse of the overhead bulb. The space was stark white and glaring, the bedding scratchy on my body. Every couple minutes, a figure strolled past the tiny peek hole in the door. Their steps bounced through the hallway like a timer I couldn't silence. They claimed it was for assessment. 72 hours, pure monitoring. But 72 hours stretched to a month. Each time I begged to go, they said I wasn't prepared. Each time I insisted I was okay, they jotted down refusal. When my parents showed up, Mom toted fancy candies and phony sniffles. She'd tap my leg and murmur, "You're making great progress, sweetie. Just keep going along." Then she'd beam at the nurse like she'd dropped off a big check. Dad hardly glanced my way. He just put his name on more forms. Always more forms. One day I caught two nurses murmuring by their desk. One grumbled, "Folks like that turn my stomach." You spot the greed in their stares. The other chuckled low. "Inheritance kid, huh?" My fingers began quivering. That evening, I snuck a peek at my chart when the overnight nurse dozed at her station. The top line read, "Committed by parents for imagined suspicions and mood swings. Individual insists her folks are trying to siphon funds." They'd scripted me into a falsehood, a flawless one, a binding one. After 34 days, they let me out. Not because I improved, but because they were done. Back home, it all appeared identical. My bedroom, my novels, even my cushion carried my scent. But fresh bolts secured Dad's workspace door. Fresh bolts on the file holder. My debit card vanished. Mom grinned like it was no big deal. "We're thrilled you're back," she cooed. "You'll appreciate this someday." Dad tacked on, "We only want what's right for you. You're not mature enough for cash like that." I gazed at them, the phrases burrowing into me. "It's my cash," I whispered. Mom giggled. "It's household funds, kiddo, and household watches out for household." I stayed quiet. Not when she passed me a timetable for counseling. Not when she mentioned she'd handle my tuition fees. Not even when I spotted the fresh ride in the garage, the one she'd sworn was out of reach. I returned to classes. Whispers everywhere. Some claimed I'd lost it. Others figured I'd harm myself. I didn't waste energy fixing their tales. Let them swallow whatever spin my parents fed them. For 2 years, I followed their rules. I attended sessions. I grinned on cue. I agreed when Mom noted, "Look, you're improving tons." I kept low. I mastered making my quiet seem compliant. But deep down, I logged it all. Every digit string, every fib they spun, every expression they flashed when they figured I wasn't looking. Outwardly, I was their girl again, but inwardly I was different. Something they'd forged without noticing. By 18, I was legally independent. But my inheritance wasn't. They'd shifted it to a household-controlled setup. I couldn't touch a penny without their okay. On my birthday, Mom slid me a greeting with $100 tucked in. "Just for kicks," she said with that rehearsed grin. I replied, "Thanks." I even embraced her. But I was through being their asset. One day, I got home from my shift early and spotted Dad in the office. He missed my entry. He was chatting on the line with somebody, saying the shift ought to wrap by month's end. Once it's in our title, she'll have zero rights. He clarified, our title, not just mine. That evening, I hunkered in my vehicle outside, squeezing the wheel till my palms ached. My exhales clouded the glass. For once, no tears, just the chill sinking in. I got it then. They hadn't only grabbed my funds. They'd swiped chunks of my years and convinced me I was nuts for spotting it. And that's when I chose if they could redo my tale once, I'd pen the follow-up myself, but not how they'd guess. I didn't yell. I didn't warn. I didn't alert cops. I grinned. I stuck near. I let them figure I was safe. Because when folks think you're fragile, they miss your approach. And that's precisely what I required. 2 years post that car moment, I'd nearly nailed my act. On record, I was the subdued kid who'd bounce back. I mailed festive notes. I dropped by when asked. I grinned over meals. But below, I tracked every crack in their shiny facade. They'd gotten sloppy. My folks were hooked on the ease they'd crafted with my cash. Fresh trips, fresh decor. Mom even launched a tiny advisory gig. Really just a spending outlet. The bills all hit the same inheritance pot I was deemed too shaky to handle. One day, I seized my opening. Their bookkeeper, a guy who'd known my grandparents, rang me by mistake after dialing Dad's digits wrong. Miss Jamie, he said, we require your sign-off for a move. Your dad's away. My air halted. Move for what? For your individual inheritance payout, he said, puzzled. It's your pot. That lone goof split it wide. He had no clue I'd been ruled incapable of running it. I acted clueless. Oh yeah, I said. Can you shoot me the paper? He did. And just like that, the barrier they bolted was cracked. I didn't fake. I didn't snatch. I merely contacted the inheritances review panel, the ones my grandparents picked ages back. I attached every paper I'd quietly duplicated from Dad's space through the years. Evidence of admin charges, mismatched signs, bogus health reports to back their hold. It wasn't payback yet. It was facts, but facts can scorch like fire. Weeks on, I arrived home to my parents bickering in the drive. Mom's tone was piercing. You swore she couldn't reach it. Dad yelled back. No idea how she pulled it. Somebody's reactivated the pot. I pulled up across the road and observed from my ride. They missed me. They were fixated on seeing all they'd nabbed begin to slide. The following day, I received a note. The inheritance was back in my title. Total command, no watchers. They'd been stripped as overseers. I didn't ring them. I didn't cheer. I just perched at my table, clutching the note till the folds dug in and murmured to myself, at last. But it wasn't sufficient. Not quite. See, funds were just one slice of what they snatched. The other was image. The pretense of being caring folks who gave up for their messed up kid. That facade was their oxygen. So I figured how to snag that too. I contacted the same center where they'd confined me. I didn't litigate. I didn't intimidate. I just asked for my complete health dossier under the records law. It showed in a thick packet a week later. Packed with entries, signs, dates, sheets of fabrications in neat script. Individual shows traits of scheming. Individual wrongly alleges fund draining. Folks helpful feeling strained. Each bit was their cover. I forwarded the dossier to the inheritance checkers, quietly, no name. In days, an alert of fund mishandling hit my parents' box. Mom phoned me that night, tone wobbly. What did you pull? I let the silence linger a beat before replying. You ought to seek help, Mom. You seem spiraling. There was a halt, then her inhale snagging. They were unraveling like I once had behind those sealed panels. Dad dropped his advisory gigs. Mom's little venture halted under probe. The home listed for sale. Still, I wasn't finished. On my 21st, the mark my grandparents set for me to truly claim mine, I stepped into the bank in a deep jacket, showed my ID, and took back it all. Every penny, every paper. That evening, I lounged on my place's floor, wrapped in quiet. For once, it wasn't empty. It was evidence. I'd endured their plot and scripted mine. But the key bit was still ahead. The bit that'd finally show them the sting of dropping what you figured was yours eternally. And I had the plan. It wouldn't be fancy. It'd be solid. A year on, they were ghosts of their old selves. The home that once carried scents of shiny floors and pricey scents now stood mostly bare and hollow. I hadn't chatted with them since the inheritance flipped, but news spread. Small places work fast that way. My mother began popping at my job, always sharp-dressed, acting casual. First visit with treats. Second, lingering in her ride for ages. I stayed inside. Dad eventually dialed from an unknown line. His voice cracked, the sort folks use when power's gone. "Jamie," he said, "we gotta chat." "It's the inheritance." Nothing left to chat. I said, "There's plenty to chat." He barked, "Your mom's been fighting. We can't cover the loan. You wouldn't want us losing the place." I nearly chuckled. Lose the place? The one they'd snagged with my funds, the one with bolts that once barred me from their space and kept me blind. "I don't hold your bills," I said. "You insured that." He began to amp up, then cut short. The quiet after weighed more than rage. "You'll be sorry," he grumbled. I ended the call. 2 months later, the home entered default. I didn't orchestrate it, but seeing the sale alert pop online felt like a soft loop closed. I didn't bid. I didn't attend. I just saw the pics vanish one by one from the ad. The trim grass, the pale deck, the office that once reeked of Dad's scotch. It was like viewing a recall decay live. But that wasn't payback. Not yet. Payback wasn't the cash or the home. It was the follow-up. I got a message from the inheritance's law team asking if I'd shift a giving slice of my legacy. My grandparents had a note, a cut for kin welfare efforts. I scanned it twice and saw precisely what to do. So I okayed a fresh direction, not to them, to the mental health spot they'd used as my prison. The cash rerouted under my sign labeled Jamie Grant Mental Wellness Support Fund. Weeks later, I received an invite from the center head. They aimed to dub a fresh patient area after me, the Jamie area, aiding young healing. I attended the opening. My parents appeared, no invite. They hovered at the crowd's edge trying to fade, faces tight, outfits no longer yelling rich. The head gripped my hand before them, grinning. "Your kindness will transform lives." Mom's expression warped, truth hitting. The exact spot she caged me in was now stamped with my title. Every drive-by, she'd spot it. Every local chat of the Jamie area, she'd recall her acts and what I turned into sans her. She approached post-event, eyes damp. "You shamed us." "No," I said, steady. "You managed that alone." Dad reached for my arm. "You figure this tops us?" I eyed him like he once eyed me over that center counter. Remote, professional. "No, it frees me." I left before more words. Outside, the breeze carried spring showers. I peeled off the tag they'd handed and tucked it in my pack. My image in the ride glass seemed wiser, firmer, beyond reach. As I pulled away, I went by them at the edge, tiny against the structure with my title. Their kingdom of grip, sway, and cash had crumbled. Not by push, but by reality. That evening, I relaxed on my place's deck, nursing brew, hearing the town hum below. The bulbs winked on gradually like tiny vows. They once called me unsteady, that I'd flop without them. But now all they cherished bore my title, and none bore theirs. When the line buzzed again, I let it ring.